In 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to another episode of NFHS Now. I'm your host, John Gillis. It's our great pleasure to have as our guest today Brad Garrett, who's an Assistant Executive Director of the Oregon School Activities Association. Among his responsibilities, Brad administers the sport of wrestling. Brad, I'd like to welcome you to the show.
Thanks. I appreciate it, John. I always appreciate an opportunity to talk about the good things we're doing out in the state of Oregon.
Brad, as you know, high school girls interested in wrestling had more to celebrate than just Lincoln's birthday on February 12th, as that day the OSAA Executive Board voted unanimously to create a separate state championship division for girls starting with the 2018-19 school year. I read that girls in Oregon currently can compete against boys in district and OSA state tournaments, or they compete against other girls in separate exhibition state tournament. So, what exactly does this change for girls in Oregon? What can they now do in wrestling that they couldn't do before?
So our young ladies over the past few years have obviously, as you've understood, had the option to participate in our regular or traditional tournament or a female girls exhibition tournament. So this change essentially codifies the opportunity for these young ladies to earn an individual state title in a weight class and for the OSAA to crown a girls team state champion within the state of Oregon. That's something that was not available previously that now will be available for these young ladies.
I read that Oregon is the 8th state with official girls state championship, joining Georgia, Hawaii, Texas, California, Washington, Tennessee, and Alaska. As this developed, did the OSA consult with those states or perhaps personally visit their state tournaments to gain a sense of how it works for them?
So the OSAA has been in contact with many of those states. We get the opportunity each summer to discuss wrestling when we go back for the NFHS summer meeting. We've been in contact, obviously, with our neighbors in Washington. We've tried to learn and understand how those states have grown the sport of girls wrestling and try to implement some of those strategies here in our own state, and we certainly appreciate those relationships. I have not personally visited any of those state tournaments, but the option to obviously watch them online, talk on the phone, talk in person has really benefited the effort to get this girls division adopted here in our state.
In this new championship model, girls can choose between wrestling and the girls exhibition state tournament or competing with the boys. What do you anticipate will happen with that? Do you have the sense that a lot of girls would choose to compete against boys?
Yeah, we're gonna always have young ladies who would prefer to wrestle in the traditional tournament. I'm positive of that, and OSA bylaws currently allow that. As we grow and develop and our numbers increase, I would imagine that a vast majority of these young ladies will wrestle in the girls' division, but at this point, we will allow and continue to allow the opportunity for young ladies to participate in the traditional tournament if that's the pathway they choose.
That being said, how many girls participate in wrestling in Oregon, and has it grown in recent years?
So this year we certified approximately 400 young ladies at the beginning of the season. The growth over the last couple of years has been doubling. So we anticipate continued growth in that model as we go down the trail of officially having a girls division. I think we'll see more young ladies move into that division with the opportunity to wrestle on the traditional side if they would like to.
Do the girls have different weight classes than the boys? How about the rules? Do they differ between the genders?
So there is no difference other than some initial wrestler appearance, having to wear a hairnet, etc., if their hair extends below their collar, that kind of stuff. Outside of that, the rules are exactly the same. In Oregon, we have 10 weight classes, but we will be reviewing those weight classes based on assessment data to try to dial that in and create the equity the best we possibly can for the young ladies, depending on their assessment minimum weights.
It would seem to me the next logical step would be sanctioning girls wrestling. Do you foresee that happening?
Yeah, I think our board is in a position where we would at some point officially sanction the sport. There are some real caution as we move forward to that, because our goal is to grow the sport. Sanctioning would require that our member schools obviously provide a full coaching staff, a full schedule, transportation, area to practice in, etc. And while I think eventually we will get there, at this point our numbers just are not at the point where we want to move directly into sanctioning.
Well, Brad, this is great news for high school girls involved with wrestling in the state of Oregon and for athletic opportunities in general. I wish the OSA great success with this venture, and I want to thank you for being with us today.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity, and we look forward to the growth of girls wrestling in the state of Oregon.
That wraps up today's episode of NFHS Now. Be sure to tune in next time, and until then, take care.